Hey Zwifters, and welcome to the Zwiftcast, and it's a special episode here from the RV of DC Rainmaker. Hey Ray.
How you doing?
And g'day mate Shane, how you doing?
Good morning, I'm very well.
Here we are at Eurobike, guys. We spent yesterday trudging the halls, looking at all the new stuff, and I think we're probably going to do the same again today, aren't we Shane?
And the next day as well.
Ray, have you got your stuff done yet?
Plenty of time. I got like at least 4 hours left for the next release.
Well, was the Wahoo climb the show stealer? I think we might think it is, and we'll get to that. We'll discuss that shortly. Did the smart bike revolution finally get started? Another point for discussion that we'll be going into in some depth later on. And Zwift, this is a podcast for Zwifters, so we've got to talk about Zwift. Zwift, I feel, kind of came of age at this show. They had their own stand for the first time, big presence, 80-inch TV, and there was just before Eurobike, there was an industry summit called the Zwift Summit, all the big players of the indoor industry together in one room. Ray, do you think that was a sign of Zwift consciously taking leadership in this space?
Definitely. I mean, there's no doubt. And they had everyone that was in that room. It was the who's who of the trainer world and the power meter world, which was interesting. That was actually both trainer companies and power meter companies there. It wasn't just trainer companies.
I mean, Zwift have definitely been a catalyst. Mm-hmm. Is it time now for them to be a leader?
I think they can be. At the same time, I think they've also got to balance that there are other apps out there. And those apps are...
Really?
Those apps are certainly very popular as well. I mean, Trainer Roads was in it well before Zwift was, and they were the big dog for quite a while, and so they still are a big dog as well. And so there's an element of that where, we've got to make sure that if they want to be part of that industry leadership, that I think from a trainer standpoint, then I think maybe it's more than just Zwift as a app. It's the indoor training summit without the Zwift in front of it.
Shane, let's get another bit of Zwift business out of the way early on in the podcast. Mm-hmm. There was a survey popped up in the community, or people reported, the survey itself wasn't in the community, but people reported they'd been sent a survey. And of course, the big thing that caught people's eye, as you would expect, was some questions about a price rise. Mm-hmm. And it looks, and in fact, Eric confirmed to me, for public consumption, but not with many details, that they are definitely quite a long way down the road to considering a price rise, which it's not surprising really, is it now? It's been out of beta a long time, it's been around for 3 years, it's $10 a month. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're on record as saying $10 a month is too cheap.
Yeah, for sure. For my usage, that is, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I kind of agree with you, I have to say, but I think it's quite difficult for people like us, and I hate to use this word, but I suppose we are seen as influencers, to say they're doing the right thing by raising money. It kind of makes you sound, by raising prices, it makes you sound a little bit like a corporate lackey, in this kind of war between the corporates and the consumer. But, very long lead up, do you think a price rise is justified?
Well, we've seen Zwift go from, back in the day, you're right, we're riding around Jarvis Island, 6 kilometres with nothing else there. And when it went to $10 per month, we had a few more options to ride with, people to ride with, lots more people to do events with. But nowadays you're looking at other features being added, so the experience is growing a lot, and the support of that's going to cost them a little bit more as well. Yeah. We've got support for more hardware that's out there, more testing of that.
More people. I mean, they now employ 120 people.
Well, exactly. They've got to cover that. But now I can get on into a group ride or a group race or a training ride with a professional coach. I can do Zwift Academy and all that. So the opportunity to do more is there.
But it would be very misguided not to ask our customers. So in asking our customers, we're acutely aware that would spill over onto social media. So that's fine. And, this heated debate in itself is great additional research for us. The price has been the same for 2 years now, and the product is different. The product's vastly different. We've got a huge commitment to hiring more staff, investing in content all the time. So if you go to a bike shop, you'll buy a trainer, and you kind of got to go over there and buy a Zwift subscription. If you go to Zwift.com, you buy a Zwift subscription, you're like, I've got to go over there and buy a trainer. So the customer journey to us might seem quite straightforward, but to the average person on the street who's got a very busy life, whose best friend isn't technology, is, it's a bit of a challenge.
They're definitely looking at various ways of packaging this up so it's going to be a little bit more palatable. They're looking at incentive schemes around buying trainers, and this was something that came up at the Zwift Summit as well. Zwift are actually going to start selling trainers.
Reselling, to be clear, not actually
Reselling,
not doing
reselling.
it wrong.
Yeah. And there are going to be various packages available for people, but down the road it does look as though a price increase is coming. I think we'll probably know about it within the next month or so. Grandfathering was a word that was used as well, which is unfamiliar. Am I the only one who doesn't really understand what grandfathering is?
Is it the grey hair we can now select in game?
I think grandfathering it's to reward people who were very early adopters on it. That looks as though it may happen soon.
Yeah.
Ray, the psychology of subscription payments for consumers is a really weird one. So we've got people here sitting on $1,000 trainers. They might have $3,000 bikes on them, and the subscription for a really innovative service like Zwift goes up from, let's say, $10 a month to $12 a month. Yeah. And there are howls of outrage. I mean, I don't think they're universal howls of outrage.
No.
But there are certainly some voices that say, this is outrageous, I'm walking away and never coming back.
Yep.
What is it about subscription income that makes people so touchy? Or is it just cyclists are awkward?
I think it's they don't own it. I think it's that they don't own, at the end of the day, when they stop using that thing, they don't own it any longer. And I think that's what people behind the scenes mentally can't necessarily grasp onto. So I think going from $10 to $12 is fine, right? I think that's a justifiable thing. I'm not worried about that. I'd say if you try to go to $20 a month, I think that's where it's like, well, you gotta remember most of these athletes are also probably paying for some sort of training analysis software or coaching or something else behind the scenes. And certainly Zwift is trying to get more into the structured workout game, but I think there's a long way to go there still. But yeah, I think it's funny because I always look at it like, if you go from 10 to 10 to $12, that's a $2 difference. That's 2 gel packets. I mean, for
one ride.
One in Australia.
One ride.
One gel packet.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking basically like an hour's worth of riding somewhere. So I think sometimes we have to temper our annoyance at price changes with the reality that our sport, especially for the longer endurance type athlete, is expensive.
Okay, well that's the kind of main Zwift business out of the way at the top of the show. The next big thing, really, which got everybody talking at Eurobike was the Wahoo climb. The firm intention was to launch this very innovative product at Eurobike, but as is often the case these days, there was a bit of a leak. I don't think it was deliberate, actually. I think what happened was that they put something up on a test site. They allowed Google to search it. Somebody found it, and guess what? It was all over the internet within hours, and it did kind of slightly spoil the main launch, but not really. Actually, there was a huge amount of interest around the launch, and here it is. Here is the official launch at Eurobike of the Wahoo climb. Well, behind this shroud is the climb, and it's about to be unveiled to an eager and waiting world.
This is it, the kicker climb. Thanks for coming, everybody.
I'm with Chip Hawkins, who is the big boss at Wahoo. Chip, we were just debating just before we started the camera about whether the climb is officially the show stealer. I say it is.
I have to say, I haven't seen everything else, but it's been a fun day.
How does it work?
I can go really deep on that one if you like. From a communication perspective, that's how it works. It's just magic. You just take it out of the box and it works. From a mechanical point of view, there's a few things going on. People can be heavy, and you got to move them pretty fast. So it's a big energy consumer, and there's a lot of power that we have to put in and out of that thing. We really couldn't find anything. There's a lot of linear actuators that are used in cars, or there's a lot of mechanical parts. Typically, when you're building a product, you can go find things in a catalog. There's nothing in a catalog in that product. That's why the price is where it is. The cost is not at all where we hoped it would be. But yeah, in order to meet the lift, the load requirements and the speed requirements, we had to design our own transmission. It has a belt drive, so we basically have a DC brushless motor in the bottom with a worm gear, which gives us the ability to not back drive. And back drive is where when you push on something or try to twist it, it'll actually spin. Well, we can't have that, because if it's turned off, we don't want you to slide down to negative 10% grade. So it's got a worm gear in the bottom, and then we drive basically a carrier up and down with a carbon belt around a couple of pulleys. So it's not terribly high tech, but mechanically there's a lot of parts in there.
And it's already generated a lot of debate amongst the people who are interested in these things. So let me go straight for the jugular on this one, Chip. Pointless gimmick or amazing innovation?
It's not either. No, I tell you what, I wanted to do it, and I came up with the idea when I was riding, doing a class at the office with a few other guys, and I was thinking, and then I thought, my mind went to, okay, that's kind of gimmicky. So I got intrigued enough that I had one of our engineers build one, and he brought it in, and I got on, and I started riding, and it didn't have its own motor, so he had a DeWalt cordless drill, and he stuck it on the top and said, "Are you ready?" And he hit the gun, and it was like an aha experience. So it's not pointless at all, and it's not magic. You're not going to get people. It's not going to make you that much faster. But what it does is it gives you that one more element that you don't get when you're sitting at the same elevation all the time. So it makes Zwift a lot more fun. I mean, that's going through the S turns, at full power where you're going up and down. You're actually going up and down. That's watching people today has been so fun, because there's a wow kind of experience every time, and that's been the part that it's like when I build something and I get to see people go through that, it's like, okay, I know it's going to work because people love it just immediately. So that's good.
Okay, Ray, I asked Chip the question: pointless gimmick or fantastic innovation? What's your verdict?
I'd say like halfway in between. I think it's really expensive. Obviously, at $5.99 in US dollars and a bunch of other currencies that I can't keep track of, it's certainly expensive.
And you need a new kicker.
And you need a kicker. I think that's the kicker, no pun intended. But that to me, and when I first heard that, my heart both sank and got a little angry at the same time. And I think once I understood, at least on the full-blown kicker, and I know Shane and I have like a to-do to go and understand more clearly on the snap as to why precisely that doesn't work. I get why it doesn't work. I get how they try to re-engineer it. I get how the stumbles I ran into in making that work. Like, I understand it now. It doesn't make me happy, but at least I'm not angry anymore about it. So that I think is a big bummer, because I think that would have been, if you had said, oh, it's $5.99, but it works for all of our past kickers, I think that's much more palatable. Still, I think it's interesting. Like, I think it's something that it is fascinating, and I've wrote it a little bit. Obviously, it's still a prototype, so it's not quite as smooth as I'd like it to be, but they're going to get there. That's just minor smoothing stuff. It's cool. I think it's definitely cool. I don't know if I would spend the money though, like that. That's for me.
It's a lot to spend. It's a lot to spend. If you could retrofit it, if you could use it with the older version kickers, I think it would kind of be a no-brainer, really. And actually, when I spoke to Chip, he did say, actually, do you know what the worst that can happen is it'll probably rub the paint off your frame, but it might break your bike. So they've got to be very careful about that. So we will go on to talk about that in a second. But let me just get your take on it, Shane. Is it a good thing?
When you hit a hill, you have to go up. It does that. They sat me on the S's.
It does that immediately?
Yeah, it does. It just responds really well. They put me on the S's on Zwift, a good little test, probably 200 metres or so of road. The bike dropped out. Now, it didn't go up on me. We'd seen all the press of it going up. It raises up. It's the elevator. It's the climb. It dropped down for the first time. I responded in true Aussie style with a few expletives as the handlebars dropped out, and they laughed. They said they wish they had caught that on tape. We probably couldn't publish it, but it got like, hang on. It wasn't hang on, but I did have to hang on. The first thing that got me though was the change in pressure points in the saddle, because that was never talked about. Because indoors you are sitting on the saddle, it's like riding a fence. It doesn't go anywhere. You can't see a resistance change. It just gets a little harder. You do get a little bit of relief on the saddle when you're putting out more power, because you're pushing more on the pedals than the saddle. This changes your sit points just a little bit, and that was the first wow factor for me. So for practical use, going up and down, it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of immersion, but that relief on the saddle bones and sit bones. Yeah, that was really, really good. So whether the uptake will be any good, I don't know.
Well, that's the next question, Ray. Do you think it'll sell? Will it sell?
It'll sell, yeah, because cyclists buy anything. So it'll sell.
Except for an extra $2 a month on a
Except for
subscription.
$2, yeah. So that's the irony, right? You spend $600 on this, but not $2 a month. But I think it won't sell as well as if it had been compatible with all trainers, obviously.
Speaking of the all trainers, I said to Chip, look, can this be compatible with any trainer? He said, well, there's no reason why it can't, but they have to make sure, again, the pivoting rear dropout so it doesn't chew through bikes. And there's the commercial side of things as well. Do they want their product to work with others? Or
well, he said to me that they did. He said they've got no problem with that at all.
Nobody was thinking about this when they built the trainers. So that's not to say a retrofit kit can't be built. I'm sure we can come up with one. It just isn't on our immediate priority list. We got to get this thing out. We got to get, and get everything working well. You never know. If some of our competitors want to make compatibility kits, or they want to adapt their next gen trainer to make it work, and then we could have official compatibility as well.
You would work with other manufacturers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's an awesome product, and I'm not purposely trying to leave it just to our products.
Do you think this puts Wahoo back at the top of the innovation tree, Ray? I mean, the crowds around this. I mean, I don't know whether it was particularly boring Eurobike. I don't think it was actually, but this was the thing that stood out. I mean, there were crowds around that booth all day long. Is this Wahoo back innovating really nicely and cleverly?
Yeah, I think they're always been innovating and doing lots of interesting stuff. I think it's been tougher that sometimes it's not like a sexy cool thing. Like it's one of those like, oh, that's a really good, like the Bolt is one that you're like, oh, that's a really well executed unit. It may not be like the most sexy thing ever, but it's well executed. And so that's something that I think they're getting back in that game on. I think obviously Tax stole the show with the Neo 2 years ago, and then the Flux last year, and I think in some ways, and that's where it kind of gets to like sexy versus practical, because in a lot of ways, if you were to go, the most practical thing that we've seen new this summer / Eurobike would be Elite and the Diretto in terms of being the most practical trainer for the bang for the buck. So it's kind of, one or the other, I guess.
Yeah.
But
if you weren't Shane Miller, if you weren't GP Llama, and manufacturers gave you loads of free stuff all the time, would you buy one?
I'd sit back and watch and see how well it integrates the final units, and because you can read 1 or 2 or 3 reviews, but it's the 300 people who have the real experience out there. So I'd be on the fence, a fence that doesn't move up and down just yet.
uncomfortable.
Ray, would you? It's probably impossible for you to answer this because you are surrounded by. Actually, it's not free stuff because you always give it back, isn't it? You do actually buy things.
I do actually buy a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So would you buy this?
I probably would because I'm a geek, not because I like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's tough. I was as Shane would answer. I'm like, I don't know. Like I would because I'm a geek. But if I could hold back that impulse of not wanting to buy it just from a pure like geekiness standpoint, I don't know if I would right away. Just because I don't know if I'd spend that much time on Zwift all year round to make that worthwhile. That's, to me, it's a little bit tougher. And I think in some ways, like I actually kind of prefer the Tax Neo as a trainer over the Kicker, mainly for sound and stuff like that. So, kind of go both ways.
Yeah.
If I could use it with other trainers, for sure, because I'm switching trainers almost daily.
Yeah.
And if you could combine it with the Neo, with the road feel as well.
That'd be super cool.
So there's.
I think it would be a no-brainer if it worked with all trainers.
Yeah,
I mean, at the moment, it's the cherry on the top tier of the cake. If it was just like the cherry on the main cake, I think I'd be banging Wahoo's door down.
That cherry.
Probably,
Yes.
I'm not sure if that analogy works, but I think it might do.
Shane took it somewhere, so.
Well, thanks, guys. I mean, that is one that we will definitely watch with great interest. And people ought to realise, I mean, that the thing that we saw at the Eurobike was a prototype, and this thing is some way off. I think it's July. It was actually
November.
for Christmas.
Yeah, November.
Yeah,
November,
hopefully for
December,
Christmas.
summer.
Yeah. But it is some way off. The other thing that we saw at Eurobike, which has got the hallmarks of being a kind of major development, was also a prototype, and that was the Smart Bike from Tax. This looks as though it could be the dawning of a new age for reasons that we will talk about shortly. That again was only a prototype. There was a slightly mysterious, dark-looking video from Wattbike, and we'll talk about that again in a few moments. But the smart bike could be the next great turn of the wheel, the next really big leap forward for indoor training. So let's take a little more detailed look at what the smart bike is and what it might mean.
I'm extremely excited to see the arrival of these smart bikes over the next 12 months. You should not need to be a cyclist to Zwift.
Eric Min giving the keynote speech at the Zwift Summit, and now the smart bike is here. Well, nearly. Tax was showing off a prototype at Eurobike. So what exactly is a smart bike? Eric, again.
Bikes as the modern day stationary bike that every household should have. It's a highly integrated, interactive indoor bike with electronic shifting and coasts unlike a traditional spin bike, and will work out of the box with Zwift.
Based on the Neo platform, it's acknowledged that the smart bike is a long way from being ready, but the idea is to bring it out of the garage or basement and into the home, appealing to the whole family. Its design mimics a piece of furniture, not an oily bike with a dirty chain. So I'm with Simon Tax of Tax, Mr. Tax himself. Simon, the Tax Neo Smart, two big questions, I think. When and how much?
When and how much? Two difficult questions. The when is before next season, definitely. We're working hard on this project. It's a lot of work. It's something new to us. But I have good hopes first or second quarter of next year. And how much? Also a difficult question. We don't know, actually. The product isn't finalized. What you see on Eurobike, it's just a concept showing what we're working on. So it's difficult to say what the pricing will be. But,
I think it's fairly safe to assume, though, that it's going to be more expensive than the Neo. And if I gave you the figure of, say, €2,000, do you think that might be... I know it's really hard because you don't know the specification of it, but it's not going to be a cheap option, is it?
It's definitely not going to be cheaper than a Neo. It's probably a little bit more expensive. The product offers a lot more functionality. It's a larger product. I think a little bit over 2,000. The goal is to make it as low as possible, but yeah.
Tax are not the only company working on a smart bike. Elite, the respected Italian manufacturer, is more than toying with the concept. And Cyclops, with the successful Hammer and other trainers, as well as the PowerTap range in its heritage, is also thought to be working up prototypes.
Introducing the unrivaled Wattbike Atom.
Wattbike, the British manufacturer, is closest and is due to launch the Atom soon after Eurobike.
When it comes to improving performance, nothing comes close.
But judging from the marketing materials, they are targeting the hardcore cyclist. Is it something that my teenage kids might ride or my wife might ride? Do you think it's going to appeal to people who are not hardcore cyclists? That seems to be the aim.
That's definitely part of why we're developing a product like this. With a Neo or a Flux, you definitely need your own bike, and with this product, a smart bike, you don't need anything. So you're a little bit flirting maybe with the fitness industry, but I think the majority of the people who are buying a product like this in the end is in between, like hardcore cyclists and fitness and everything what's in between there. We as a company just like to create stuff we like ourselves and we believe in, and this is one of those projects. It could be a massive success, it could be a massive disaster, we will see.
It opens it up from hardcore, small amount of people who are cyclists, that's a slightly strange bunch of people, to really the rest of the world and anybody who is interested in keeping fit and not schlepping to the gym to do it. How big is it, Ray? How big could this smart bike revolution be?
It's going to totally depend on software. I mean, I think everyone's looking at this because of what Peloton's done, right? So it's actually not at all Zwift at this point. It's purely Peloton, and saying, oh wow, Peloton's really caught on. Of course, the dirty little secret is the Peloton bike is less than ideal, less than awesome hardware underneath the covers, but it doesn't matter because no one cares. They care about the experience of the software and the screen and the whole thing, and it's awesome. It's beautiful. Like, it's really, really well executed. I'm not convinced. I think it works well in the Peloton scenario, because like my wife looks at the Peloton bike, she's like, get me one of those now. I want that. I want to be able to jump on a bike and not have to set things up, like, because her has a tri-bike that has rear facing dropouts, so you put it on a direct drive trainer, it's kind of a mess to hook on there, and she just hates dealing with all that. She just wants to get on and go. So for her, I don't call it indoor cycling bike is ideal, and the Peloton experience is something she's excited about. Whether or not that translates to like the Zwift world is tricky, because a lot of these people already have bikes. So now you're taking something that in a best case scenario starts off at $1,500, so the price of a Neo for an indoor bike, and then could go up to $3,000+, which is, tax is talking $2,500 to $3,000 right now, which I'll flat out say, and I told them straight in their face yesterday when they said that's too much. End of story. Too much.
It is too much.
And I think we're going to see that in the very near term with other stuff. That's just that trying to go 25 to 3 is too much.
I think that could be a huge barrier to this spreading out to, what should we call them, normal people.
It opens up a whole new world, but yeah, that's a big investment. At the moment, at $1,500 for a smart trainer, it's like buying a new bike anyway, because you're still using your own bike, but again, the bike you chose, that you put the bar tape on, and you chose that saddle and that group set, and you love it. It's the same bike you ride outside. The experience just changes a little bit. For $1,500, you've got a whole new discipline. The spin bike, I've always been not a fan of the thing. I don't want to ride something that's just absolutely rigid, like riding a brick fence. It needs to have a bit of flex and a bit of realism.
But you're coming at that from a cyclist point of view.
Purely from a roadie point of view, for sure.
From the hardcore point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose the one thing to consider, I asked Simon Tax about this, and I said €2,000, and he didn't demur, and it could well be much more than that. But let's say that's divided between 4 people in the family who use it.
Okay.
Let's say all 4 of those people have got gym memberships. Let's say you can't be bothered to drive to the gym, which costs you money in petrol and diesel and gas. Does it then start to look a little bit more of a realistic option?
If you're coming up with a financial use case for something at home, it's sort of extending itself a little bit. We all go buy an Apple TV. The whole family can use the Apple TV, but we're like, oh, that's $300. Oh, that's a lot of money. This is 10 times that potentially. So it's going to be a hard sell. Whether they go that route.
We've seen, companies do this already. There's that crazy Proform bike, whatever it is, with the guy wearing the helmet that we always see around the Tour de France ads, right, where it goes up and down. That's that same price point. And it hasn't done well. In the grand scheme of it hasn't done awesome.
But Peloton has.
Peloton has, because it's engaging and because it's super exciting, and it's something that you're seeing live humans. You're seeing live
you can see the experience you're going to be provided with before you even buy, and people say, I want that.
But Zwift are playing with this. Zwift have got the capability of doing this. They're very shortly going to introduce coached rides, where there might be a pro cyclist who is telling you what it should feel like to sprint. That is... I'm not saying they're ripping off the Peloton model. They're not, but it's a similar kind of thing. There's a human being there talking to you about how you should feel and how good this is for you. So Zwift maybe have the capabilities to do a Peloton on this?
Yeah, I think they certainly could. It's just getting into that market and finding a way to convince people to put indoor bikes. And I think Peloton is right now, like, all the people that talk to Peloton are not largely people at this show. They are people that have a bike because someone else in their family is not a cyclist. There's someone who would normally go to spin class, and this is replacing the spin class purchase, right? So, the Peloton app is $30 to $40 a month on top of the bike purchase, so you're still talking a fair bit there. But like you said, a spin class, depending on your gym, could be $40 per class. This you can easily justify and go, oh, I paid this in one class worth for the month. So speaking of which, if folks are hearing what sounds like a war zone behind us, it's thunder, I think. Or,
is it thunder?
Or something.
There's something coming very grey.
It has gone very dark.
Lucky we're talking about indoor cycling here.
We're actually kind of indoors here, viewers. Raised expansive awning, but the camera is not. So if I stop, it's currently wrapped. Actually, hello Rafa. It's currently wrapped in a brand new Rafa jacket, one of those super waterproof things.
It's why we all keep kind of looking at it once in a while. The jacket like flutters up this way. We're just waiting for it to wrap around the camera.
But if I suddenly spring up and knock everything over, it's because there's a deluge that's going to kill the camera.
Back onto the smart bikes. My take on what I'm seeing and the rumours I'm hearing, I still think we're 12 months delayed. These things need to be on the market now and riding them. Yeah. Even if not, we saw with the Climb, it's out. We can buy it soon. We can see what it's all about. A lot of people, these smart bikes are still just rumours. Too slow.
But they're not. Yeah, but it is slow. But they're definitely coming. I mean, again, when I spoke to Eric, he said, but he said there's one coming Q1, there's another coming Q2, there's another coming Q3. Informally, we spoke to trainer companies yesterday. They all said they were working on them.
Everyone's
so
going to be looking at this,
they're coming. And that raises another question, really. If all these guys are putting big resource, big R&D resource, big manufacturing resource, prototype resource, they're all kind of betting, well, they're not betting the farm on it, but they believe it's going to work at these price levels. Now, are they all wrong?
It depends if it works for them as a company. If they're a pure roadie company and haven't been in that space before, they might struggle. But if they can adopt other things that have been successful for companies that are already there, Wattbike, for example, they're in that space already. Are they coming over to the roadie space? Is there a sort of a convergence of those two? Me coming from the pure roadie point of view, not the spin class point of view.
Yeah.
It depends on the company, I guess, and how they execute and how good the product actually is.
And they're also all scared of being left behind, I think.
They are, and I think the thing to keep in mind is that once you start talking indoor bikes, depending on how well you build that bike, the individual cyclist is actually a smaller part of the potential pie for them because they can go into gyms, they can go into that area, and that's something that as Wahoo's learning, yes, gyms are complex, but they're also really rich environments because the companies that are in those environments today mostly suck, and so from a technology standpoint, they're not there. And so if you take these leading technology companies in the cycling world, the Tacks, the Elites, the Wahoos, and stick them into the gym market with something that's connected and cool, and you layer a Zwift or a Peloton or wherever the heck you want on top of that, the gym comes back and says, oh, I can sell this too for $45 a session or whatever they want.
Well, CompuTrainer dominates in the gyms still. CompuTrainer aren't even around anymore. It's a good solution for people to use. So if these bikes can be that, they can just box them up and stick 40 of them in one place. Supporting one, I guess, company that has 40 of them is a lot cheaper than supporting 40 individuals that have individual problems with theirs. So it makes sense if they can get more volume out.
Yeah. It does look to be the next turn of the wheel in indoor cycling, although it may not even be called cycling. It may just be called...
Oh, no, it's got to be called cycling. Don't call it spin. Don't call it spin.
One to watch with huge interest this area, and we will be doing. We're going to take a slight break now because there is actually a full-scale thunderstorm just about to break. So we'll be back with you shortly. Okay, we're back. The thunderstorm has arrived, actually. It's pretty dramatic. So we've got a little bit cosier because we've had to pull the camera in out of what is going to be a pretty torrential downpour looking at the sky. Ray, a keenly priced trainer from Elite, the Dorito as we love to call it, keenly priced, surprise, in short supply. They don't have the stock levels, they are making noises about not being able to make them fast enough. I mean, what is it with training companies?
I think it's tough. I mean, they expected they would have a good product, but not, I think, as good as they end up having, which sounds silly, but ultimately they made a product that's awesome. And in doing that, it's going to become kind of the trainer to have for that mid-tier market, and even probably displace a lot of higher-end sales this winter. And so, and Elite's actually been really good historically, and this year as well, in terms of hitting their timelines. I mean, they hit all their timelines within a week, basically, and of when they expected production to start, when they expected production to ship, and all that kind of stuff. It's just a case of now selling a lot of them and having about a whole lot volume.
Looking at my sound levels, I'm sure you can still hear us, but that rain is pretty loud, pretty full on. The winter is definitely coming. Shane, we went to see together. We went to talk to an Australian company called Jet Black. Now, Jet Black, they've kind of flown under my radar, really. I'm not very aware of them. I don't know if their UK distribution is that fantastic, but they're not a company that I know a lot about. They've come up with a smart trainer, which they call the Whisper Quiet. You had a quick go on it yesterday.
Yeah.
What do we know about them?
Surprisingly little. Unfortunately, they're from out of Sydney, actually, so not too far from home. But most of the trainer manufacturers I work with on this side of the globe, they're local. I haven't actually ridden one. There's a few people who ride the Whisper Drive, the direct drive non-smart trainer, because it is quiet. This is their Smart Trainer entry. That last year they were here with the concept of that, and it's taken them until now to get something almost ready to go, which is in about 4 weeks or so. That's about all we know.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Trent. I'm the founder of Jet Black, or co-founder of Jet Black, 14 years ago from Sydney. So just Europe's been probably our weak point of view. So that's why we're at the show now, trying to make some inroads.
It looks pretty small and neat. What does it weigh?
It weighs all up 17.5 kilograms. So it's great for travel, the way it all folds in, and we've designed the feet so they completely fold in to make it nice and easy for travelling.
The Whisper Drive soft launched last year, and it's what Frank calls self-generating. In other words, it doesn't need plugging in. In fact, the rider can even generate a small current. So we did a little test with Shane. No toaster, I'm afraid, but we did plug in a small USB-powered fan to see whether Shane turning the pedals could provide a small amount of cooling in the hot halls of Eurobike.
Seems a very comprehensive offer. Why have we not heard more of you? Do you not spend enough money on advertising?
Probably, that's a good point there. But it's, at home, our core business is we're a distributor of many famous brands in Australia. We've pushed out and just really starting to take the global market now in this category.
Yes, putting back into the system and getting back out.
So Shane, it's notoriously difficult to judge the quietness or noisiness of trainers, particularly at trade shows. But here is the Jet Black trainer, the Whisper Drive. Is it whisper quiet?
I can't hear it on the bike here. There's a lot of ambient noise, but no, it's definitely doesn't have a whine to it like we know from a lot of other trainers. So no, silence. Yep, sounds pretty good.
Well, I can't hear it at all. But we're at a trade show. There is a higher level of noise, and it does seem very quiet, doesn't it? It does seem very quiet. How does it feel?
It's actually not bad. I need some clip-ins and I need to be kitted up to give it a full run for its money, but it's not a slog. Some trainers you jump on and the inertia's not there. You've got to really turn the pedal over to get it going. This, as a direct drive trainer, it feels good.
The trainer that Shane just had a very quick go on, you're selling it as a quiet trainer. It does seem very quiet. Just tell us a bit about the price point.
Yeah, one of the great things about Jet Black is all our products, when we create a product, it's about having the best value for money. And it's taken us a little bit longer than what we thought to enter into the smart category, but it's definitely been worth it. It's this trainer here, the Whisper Drive Smart, it'll retail for around $1,099 US, which puts us in a real sweet spot in the market.
And this is the first time that the world's seen it at Eurobike. It's a new launch here?
We did a soft launch last year. We showed the concept to our distributors last year about the Smart Trainer. Of course, there's a lot of great competition, some fantastic companies we're coming up against. So when we looked at the benchmarking towards them, we wanted something to play in the very top percentage alongside them. But Jet Black's heartbeat has the best value for money, something that a customer can buy and not spend a fortune on, and actually walk away with a product, go, wow, what a great buy. And that's been the heartbeat of our designs.
And I assume it's fully Zwift compatible?
Absolutely it is. So Zwift have got it right now in there, authorising it all.
I mean, I like the look of it. Do you know much about them, Ray?
No, I touched a little bit. They were trying to send me up a unit back a month or so ago for their FPC controlled one, and it keeps on kind of sliding date-wise, and it's tough. I think if you miss Eurobike, you miss September, like you sort of missed it. Like, I don't know.
Whoa! I know, the awning's collapsed.
Grab your camera. This is all going to water down on you.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So at that point we needed some fairly rapid and nifty awning propping up work, as it filled with many, many, many gallons of water in an extraordinarily short period of time. But we reassembled inside the RV in a much more cosy setting.
in the rain.
I think there's going to be a few catastrophes when people come back from Eurobike today. See what's happening.
You can look around. You can see people's awnings are collapsed everywhere. It's not good.
There's people walking around naked in rags. It's bad.
So indoor cycling, guys. We're talking about indoor cycling.
Well, let's talk about indoor cycling. Ray, I think let's just pick up on Jet Black, because you were saying you're a bit like us. You don't know too much about them, but
yes, I've just chatted with them. I saw them at Interbike last year, and chatted with them a little bit there. And I think they've got an interesting product. I just haven't seen it actually shipped yet. I think I talked to them last year, and I thought, I'm not sure, maybe they have shipped something between last year and now. So they've got to get out the door. If you miss that Eurobike time frame, it's really, really tough, Eurobike Indoor time frame, because people and trainer guides across a large number of sites are published around now-ish and the next 4 to 6 weeks. And so if you're not there, you're kind of not there for the year. So I think they could be onto something. It's just they got to get a product out the door.
Yeah. Shane, I think we've covered the main things. It's not been as an exciting a year as it was last year. I mean, the climb was great. What else has caught your eye at Eurobike? Can we talk about the Garmin Power Meter yet?
I think there's a wow factor of the climb, that's great. And what we're seeing this year is more of a refinement and perfection of what's already there. Nothing brand new. Well, the climb is new, it's brand new, that's pretty cool. The Diretto, we're seeing just a little bit of refinement made. Killer power accuracy, a little bit lower price point. That's what people want to see. Those pedals, though, have caught my eye. They're everything. I mean, I love my P1s.
Yeah, me too.
And everything I couldn't stand about the original Vectors 1 and 2, and having to carry that torque wrench around. That's a pain in the ass. It really is. They've solved all the problems with those pedals.
No pods.
Ray pulled them out of the box yesterday, and they were super sexy tech. And the technology that you don't know is there. If you saw somebody with those on your bike, unless you knew on their bike and you didn't know what you were looking at, you wouldn't know there's a power meter on the bike. So for the weight weenies, they'll love it. For people who don't want to keep adding new things to their bike and adding this and that, it solves that problem. And you can buy it in a box. You can walk into the shop, pick out the power meter you want. There's no bottom bracket compatibility issue. There's no 10 speed, 11 speed, where are we at speed, mountain bike, road bike, the road pedals. But it's just an easy solution going, and a good price point too.
Yeah. So it's a good unit. It'll do well.
Yeah. What else has caught your eye, Ray?
Like Shane said, it's kind of more refinement year. I think last year we saw a lot of new products, a lot of new stuff from a lot of companies. This year is a bit more of just a breather year and catching things up aside from the climb. But a lot of companies are just sort of focused on refinement. I mean, outside of the Smart Bike for tax, which is not coming for another year, so that's still a year away. They didn't really have anything else to show from a trainer standpoint. So maybe some firmware updates coming down the road near term, but nothing major. And the same with Cyclops, and the same with a lot of other people. So I think it's been kind of a quiet year, and which is all right. Obviously, there was Vector yesterday. There was 2 days ago, whatever it was, and there was the Edge 1030. But those are sort of, again, more evolutionary updates. They are revolutionary.
Yeah. I have noticed, I spent a couple of days before Eurobike cycling around. You done any cycling around here?
A little bit, yeah.
E-bikes are just enormous.
I've walked to and from
enormous.
Eurobike, and people are shooting past as I'm walking on the footpath, and I'm like, they are fast cyclists around here. Oh, hang on, wait. It's e-bikes galore.
Yeah. It's incredible. I went for a ride, 50-mile ride around Switzerland, which is just over the border here, just over the lake. Such a beautiful ride. I maybe saw, these are very rough numbers, I saw maybe 150 cyclists, 2 road cyclists. Rest of them were either on mountain bikes, and the majority of them were on e-bikes. And these were ordinary people, this is utility cycling. Fantastic facilities around here, lots and lots of lanes, lots and lots of completely segregated cycleways. Coming from the UK, it just makes me weep that we're so far behind, to be honest. But here, it's kind of paradise for cycling.
It is, and e-bikes are incredibly popular in Germany in general, and they sell really well here. And if I looked at the US side of things, they don't sell at all there, and a lot of that's because of restrictions, right? In the US, they're restricted on how fast they can go and all the different parameters of what they can do and can't do and where they can go, and so the market just eventually, you keep removing pieces from it and it goes away. And there, of course, there's the reality of traffic and bike lanes and stuff like that in the US is a whole different situation than it is here. Here bikes are respected. In the US, it's more of a
nuisance.
Yeah, exactly, at best, or something to take out off the road. So stuff.
Yeah. No, very interesting. I recommend cycling around here if you ever get the chance. It's a fantastic experience. Shane, one thing you would take away from Eurobike if you were given a free choice, what would it be?
Product-wise?
Yeah, just anything you like. Anything you like that you've seen, what would you take away?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'll come back to you because I think Ray might be more decisive.
I know exactly what I want.
Go on.
I want the blimp right there. I want the gigantic blimp that is out here.
It takes off every half an hour.
It does.
I keep posting photos on Instagram Live of it, and people say it never gets old, does it? I'm like, nope. Every time I just sit there and watch it, it's just.
It's incredibly expensive to go for a ride.
I don't know what it is about blimps. I see they do joy rides. What is the cost?
So I looked it up. For an hour, it's like 440 or 450 euros.
Really?
Yep. And for half an hour, it's like 240 or 220, something like that.
That's too much.
I would have been like, okay, for once in a lifetime, I'll go for a blimp, maybe like $100 or 120, but
back to the point. Anyway, back to the point.
Not in
boys.
this thunderstorm.
Back to the point. The one thing I would take away, actually, because I'm shallow like this and I like innovation and I'm nerdy and I get bored cycling a lot of the time when I have to do it a lot of the time, if you know what I mean. I'd take the climb. I really like the climb.
Okay.
I really like the climb.
As I said before, I'm still on the fence about that, whether it's the practicality or whether it's a bit of a wow factor. I do like that it's got eyes on this field. People are looking at this like, what the hell are they doing there? Oh, indoor cycling, that's a thing. It'll get more people looking at the market. Look, I'll go back to a last year's product, a road bike with disc brakes. They've now been allowed for racing in Australia. I can go. That's what I'll pick.
Get me started on disc brakes. Complete unnecessary thing for road cycling. Anyway, let's
Some of them look good. Those bikes are looking nice, though.
Let's not have that.
I like the look of them now.
You'll make me mad. You'll make me mad.
We had downhills today. We might be using disc brakes.
Bingo. There we go. Practical. Yeah. All those pedals. Those pedals were nice too.
Ray, your very, very favourite thing apart from the blimp?
Apart from the blimp, I think the climb is really interesting. I think where Taxigo with the smart bike could be interesting as well to look at. I like looking at all the random stuff at Eurobike aside from the blimp, like the smart bike washing machines, like the fact that you can put this bike in this little like sideways porta potty.
I want to jump in one. I think it'll be efficient for humans too. It might be a bit scratchy, but
like I would pick that. Like if that would be one thing I could walk into the show floor and pick something out.
One thing with Eurobike that people don't ever see, and I'll try and run around with a camera today and grab some as well. There's a lot of Asian manufacturers here, very small and niche, and they have some really obscure products. You're like, I haven't thought of that before. They've got a solution to. It's amazing. Is it 1,300 exhibitors or 1,400 exhibitors? We can't see them all in a day. So
I mean, I've kind of trudged around for work and hit the big targets. Whether I would actually, I probably would look round for pleasure, but I think I'd probably go to lots of different places. But the range of stuff that you see here is amazing. I think we said this last year. If you do get a chance to come to Eurobike, you really should. It's just an amazing thing. Yeah. Ray, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thanks for the shelter, actually, inside the Raymaker RV. Shane, thank you very much for your time and your assistance. We've done a bit of work together over the past couple of days. Thanks, guys. That's it for this special edition of the Zwiftcast Eurobike. See you soon, folks.